Big tech and the media lost control of our elections in 2016, and they are not going to let that happen again. They made a bunch of adjustments in 2020, and now they are using those same tactics in 2024. Recently, Vivek Ramaswamy, a presidential candidate, was censored on LinkedIn, the social media network that was founded by none other than the anti-Trump billionaire known as Reid Hoffman, somebody we've talked about a lot here, the same person who is funding the lawsuit that E. Jean Carroll brought against Donald Trump. So now we see that LinkedIn is censoring Vivek. I have been censored. I've had many posts removed from LinkedIn. So we don't even post there anymore because we get the content warnings. But I'm not running for president. Vivek is, and they're shutting him up too. Here is what he said about it.
To get an email noting that my LinkedIn account had been shut down. I wondered why, because actually a number of friends texted me saying they followed me on LinkedIn. That's how they keep up. They weren't able to find me anymore.
He's a business person.
And so when I had my team get in touch with LinkedIn, here's the response that we got. I'm not kidding. I'm reading from this.
Okay.
Your account was restricted for sharing content that contains misleading or inaccurate information. They said what it was. One was a video where in the video I said, the CCP is playing the Biden administration like a Chinese mandolin. China has weaponized the woke pandemic to stay one step ahead, and it's working. That was the first offense. The second offense was one where I said that if the climate religion was really about climate change, then they'd be worried about shifting oil production from the US to places like Russia and China. Yet the climate religion and its apostles in the ESG movement have a very different objective. That was my second offense.
What's wrong with that?
And apparently my third strike was to say this.
The
climate agenda is a lie. Fossil fuels are a requirement for human prosperity.
Yeah.
Those were my three strikes.
Perfect.
That got me censored on LinkedIn.
A+.
This is staggering. And so then we pushed back, and what do we say? We actually got specifics on how we're actually, hate speech, misinformation, and violence.
Oh.
Those were the policies that I was actually violating.
We're familiar with those here, too.
I got a kick out of this. I'm going to be honest.
Yeah.
I'm sure that we're going to get this escalated because I'm a U.S. presidential candidate.
Yeah.
We have the connectivity to the people that we need to talk to be able to get my LinkedIn account back. But I'm not bringing this about because it's about me.
Exactly.
I'm bringing this up because if they can do it to me, they can really do it to anybody. For making statements about the climate change movement and agenda in this country that are grounded in fact, and then express an opinion based on those facts. To make a statement about Biden's relationships with China and criticize his China policies as a result. To say that that's going to be characterized as misinformation, hate speech, and violence per LinkedIn's terms of service. This is a Microsoft-owned company. It shows what's going on in this country.
And they have the gall to do it to him. What about the many other thousands of people who just kind of give up and abandon posting on LinkedIn like we have? We don't have access to them. We can appeal it and they'll just say, get bent like most of the platforms do. And so we just decide not to post on there anymore. But he is a presidential candidate. He does have access to some of the tools, and certainly he will be back on LinkedIn, I would imagine. But the problem with this is it's not just the stuff that we see on the surface as well. We also have censorship that's taking place surreptitiously, in secret, with the people behind the scenes adjusting the algorithms so that the content that doesn't serve their side doesn't see the eyeballs. They get the context warnings, they get the algorithmic suppressions, and it's like one side is having duct tape wrapped around their mouths while the other side is being amplified and boosted. And so Vivek has a big platform and he has the capability to fight back on a lot of this, but many other people don't. And what about the people who don't even know they're being censored and being suppressed by the people who are running these organizations?
These aren't really the actions of private companies. These are so-called privately held companies or publicly traded private companies that are doing the work of the government through the back door, silencing speech that the government would never dare censor, could never censor under the Constitution, but use the back door of tech companies to get it done instead. That's even more dangerous than direct government censorship in many ways, because it is a hybrid of corporate power and state power together, doing what neither one of them could do on their own. That's really what this is about. So I'm not worried about me. I'll get my LinkedIn account back, I'm sure. And if not, I'll still be fine. Believe me. I'm doing it because it's a symptom of how deep this cancer has run in our country.
Right.
And believe me, we will stop at nothing in restoring free speech in our country, in restoring internet freedoms in our country. I've been writing about these issues for several years. I was actually one of the first people in this country to expose the way government was colluding with big tech to get done through the back door its dirty work. And so it seems like karma that they've come back and actually punished me for it in the form of censoring my speech about climate change and about China policy. But believe me, I'm not going to stay censored. We're going to get this done through the national revival that we're leading starting next year.
Nice statement by Vivek. And I think that the significance of this is that they thought through it a bit. You can see a couple of these posts. Says, "Hi, Vivek, your account was restricted for repeatedly sharing content that contains misleading or inaccurate information. You shared videos on February 5th. You shared a video on February 16th. And you shared a video on May 7th. And so very upset about it. And so this is a person who assembled this, right? I would imagine, because it looks like they wrote this. If you agree to abide by the terms, we'll grant another chance to regain access to your account. You can't do that. You can do that by replying to this email and stating you expressly agree to abide by our terms going forward. You agree that you're not going to speak out against Biden and that you're not going to speak out against ESG and climate change, or you're not going to support fossil fuels. You agree, right? You may appeal our decision by clicking the link." Now, this may very well be a form automated post, but they did assemble 3 different violations. And I would imagine that a human reviewed this before it went out and said, send it. Says, in response, "Can you please clarify from Vivek's team what is misleading in any of these statements, you wackos? Thanks very much, Trisha." They respond, "Thanks for the reply. We're happy to help you understand how the LinkedIn site and services operate and to provide guidance on specific situations. However, we can't interpret the user agreement for you or tell you how it would be applied in any hypothetical situation." Okay. Well, how about in the 3 situations you identified? They're not asking about hypotheticals. They say, "We don't tolerate misinformation, hate speech, or violence, or any form of abuse on our platform." And we've had several LinkedIn posts removed. "We understand this might not be the response you wanted." YouTube says the same thing when they remove stuff. "But we work to apply our policies. We respect the right of all members to express themselves." No, you don't. Just because you type it in an email doesn't mean it's true. As such, any content that violates our user agreement will be reviewed and actioned, and we may suspend you if you agree. Now, LinkedIn, as we know, has a troubled history. This guy founded it, Reid Hoffman, billionaire founder of LinkedIn, co-founder, went and visited Epstein's Island, funded E. Jean Carroll's lawsuit, is a radical anti-Trumper, spends millions of dollars to stop Donald Trump, was a major Hillary Clinton supporter, apologized for an online disinformation hoax conducted by former Obama administration officials, co-founded LinkedIn, admitted in late 2018 to funding American Engagement Technologies, which was embroiled in a false flag scandal stemming from an Alabama special election. They also created the technology running group called Hamilton 68, propaganda website founded by Jonathan Morgan. And so these people are just info warriors and info censors who are trying to get out there and go and attack their opponents. But now people are aware of their activities and fighting back. And LinkedIn responded, and Vivek is giving us an update. Says, now LinkedIn, owned by Microsoft, is trying to claim their decision to censor me was an error. Did those emails look like an error to you, like a little mistake? He said, can you explain? They responded, said, no, we're done. We're done with you. On May 17th, we noticed my account was locked. A LinkedIn employee said it was because I had posted videos containing misleading or inaccurate information. We asked them in writing to point out what was false. The employee doubled down, said, we don't tolerate misinformation, hate speech, violence, or abuse. It took several media inquiries before they restored the account nearly a week later. They called it an error. Vivek says that's totally dishonest. This wasn't a technical glitch. It was an intentional act of censorship on specific views regarding Biden, China, and climate. Typical big tech behavior, trying to cover their tracks after egregious election interference. I challenge Satya, which is the CEO of Microsoft, to publicly condemn LinkedIn's censorship, or else this is just the beginning of 2024 election interference. And big tech is not going to lose the same way they lost in 2016. We know the FBI is not going to sit around on their butts and allow that to happen either. Just because Elon happened to buy Twitter and maybe that collusion has been severed between the FBI, Homeland Security, all of the big bureaucrats, and Twitter does not mean for a minute that that has stopped in any of the other platforms, with Microsoft, with Google, with YouTube, with Facebook, with Instagram, with TikTok, and of course with LinkedIn. And so now that they're doing it openly to presidential candidates and then trying to cover it up means there's going to be a lot more of this to come. And of course, we're happy to see Vivek and others scream about it, bring it to our attention so we can hold them all accountable.